So we start. We had left with module 1.4 of the first chapter. So we'll cover that today. So the topic is man page. Now what does this man page stands for? It stands for a manual page. Okay. Now what is that manual page? It is nothing but a documentation which we get whenever we install any operating system. That means even if suppose we buy any new device, to install that device we always refer to a book or a booklet, and then we follow that booklet and keep on doing entire process. So similarly, if it is an operating system, we do not get any booklet, but all the booklet is in the form of a commands, or it is in the form of some page which is online. Like how do we have a help? So if I have any problem or if I do not know anything, I can always go inside that help and search for the topic, and then I can read the data and get my work done. So similarly in the Linux, that help page is nothing but a man page, also called as a manual page. So now what we have to do is, if at all I want to find information for any command, say command cron tab command. So if I want to find the information of that, what I have to use is, along with that cron tab command, I have to make use of this man command also. So to do that, how do we write a command is man command name. That means I'll write a man first, followed by that, whichever information of a command I want to know, I will write that particular name over here. Okay, so if I say man cron tab, it will give me the information of a cron tab from this manual page. Okay, if you see this example, there is written as man printf. Now what is that man printf? It will give me the information of a command printf. So when I type this command man printf and when I press enter, I get to see this information. That is the name of a command, how do you type that particular command, and what is the description of the command. So what was my command printf? So if I want to know what this command actually does, I simply have to add man in front of that, which will give me the entire details of a command printf. Similarly, if I want to replace this printf command with any other command, I can always do that. So to find information or a help of any command, we make use of a manual page command. And what is that manual page command? It is nothing but man followed by the command name. So if you see over here, it is name as printf, which is used to format and print the data. How do you write that? Printf format argument, printf option. That means you can use this command with certain arguments and you can use this command with certain options also. Then it will give you the details of description of how do you use it with the argument and how do you use it with the option. So we just have to read this, follow that, and execute the command. Now again, where do we type this man printf? It is typed in the terminal, or we call it as a shell. Okay, so it is a place where we type the commands. So where is this command to be typed? It has to be typed at the terminal. Okay, like this, your entire manual page or your entire man command is divided into 8 sections. Okay, what are those 8 sections? First is the user commands. Second is the system call commands. Next is the library commands. Then you have special files related to devices. Then you have file formats and configuration files. Then you have games, and then you have miscellaneous. Okay. Now what is user commands? Now whatever we just saw over here, printf, this is what is a user command. So your manual page gives information about all the user commands that a user can type. So if I type a command called as ls, if I write man space ls, so it will give me the entire description of that ls command. Next, if I type man chmod, so that is change mode, so it will give me entire description of the chmod command. So likewise, if a user types any command related to Linux, your manual page will give the description of that command typed by the user. So whatever commands a user are typing are categorized into the user commands. Okay, so your manual page will give the information related to all the user commands that a user is going to type inside the terminal. Along with that, your manual page will also give the information about the system calls. Now we know what is system calls. Every activity which is happening between the user and the kernel is generated with the help of this system calls. We also know different types of system calls, like system calls related to files, system call related to processes, system call related to IO devices. So if I want to know the information of any kind of system call, again I can use this manual command or a man page command to know the description of the system call related commands also. Okay, and who will be performing these commands? It will be performed by the kernel. Okay, next is library calls. Now we had also seen that there are different types of libraries related to different types of programs that you write in your Linux. So if at all I'm writing a basic C programs, I require a library libc function. So if I want to have certain kinds of function or the information of a library function, I can always find that information in the manual page again by using a man command. So if I type manlibc and press enter, so what it will do, it will give me the entire description of libc, that is library C command. It will give me how it is supposed to be written. It will tell me what is a description of it. It will also tell me what are the options that can be used with the help of this library C functions. Okay, next category of information which your manual page will provide is related to your devices. Now these devices are considered to be as special files. Now why they are considered to be as special files? Because they are, as they are attached separately or externally to your system, they are considered to be as special files. So if at all I have attached some external device, and if I want to know some information about that external device, that is how much is the storage, how much is the speed of it, everything relate, all data related to that particular device can also be found with the help of a man command. Now same information is also found inside the dev directory also. So if at all you do not know that you have to go inside the dev directory and then extract the information, you can always use a man command to know the information about that externally connected devices. Then next is file formats and configuration files. What does this do? It describes various human readable file formats and configuration file. So if I want to know that, or if I want to know something, some kind of information related to system files or some information related to configuration file, I can always know that also with the help of a man command. I simply have to take the name of that file and append it with a man command. So when I do that, I will get the entire information about that files, which may be either a temporary file or a human readable file, or again any kind of configuration file. Now next is the games. Now if at all in the Windows operating system, we have many different kinds of games that we install and we keep on playing. Similarly in Linux also, we can install those programs and we can install those games, and then we can play the games in Linux also. So if at all I want to find the information about that game, I can always do, or I can always know that information by just giving the name of the game and again adding man to it. So suppose if I'm playing cards, or if there is a game name called as cards, so I just have to type man cards. So and when I press enter, what do I get to see is the all the information related to that particular game. Then the last one is overview, convention, and miscellaneous. Now, when this is used, whenever you have any network connection, or if you have any network setup with your system to some another system, and if you want the details of the opposite system, I can also use man command to get the details of all the other computers shared on the network. So these are the different categories which allows you to search for the information based on these categories by using a man command. So we call that command as a manual page. It is nothing but a document which will give you detailed information of each and every commands that are used inside the Linux operating system. Okay. Along with this, you also get information related to system administrative commands. Now, system administrative commands means, again, if a system administrator, that is a root user, that means only the normal user cannot make use of this man command. It can also be used by the system administrator also. And if a system administrator is executing any certain set of commands, all those commands information can also be gathered by making use of this man command. So every detail that a user wants to know about the system can be found by making use of this man command. Clear? Now next, your man command can be used with different options. Now we had seen one of the options in a cron tab command, that was -I and -R. What was -R for? To remove something. And -I was to ask to the user before we remove. That was I was for interactive. That means it will ask for the user confirmation. And once if the confirmation is received either by pressing Y or by pressing N, the appropriate action will be taken. But if I simply make use of -R, it will not ask for any user option. It will straight away remove. So likewise, there are options used with the man command also. Now, what are those options? The first option is -F, if you can see on the screen. -F option. Now, what I have done is I have used man command to know the information of printf. But along with printf, I have used an option called as -F. Now, what does that -F do? It will display the short description of printf. Now, what is that short description? It formats and prints the data. That means if I want to know some information, but in very short text, so I can do that by making use of -F. But if I want to know it in detail, I will simply write man printf. So it will give me the detailed information. So now if you compare this command with the previous command, see here I had not made use of -F. So it is giving me so much of information. It is telling me what is the name, how you can use that, what is the description of each. But now if I append -F in front of printf, what it is giving me? It is giving me only short information. So if I do not want to know in detail, but in very short text, I can also do that by making use of -F option along with man command. Okay. Next is -K option. First was -F, second is -K. Now what is -K doing? It will search the short manual page description for keywords and display whatever is matching. Now, for example, what I have used here, man-K printf. Now, in this printf, or there are many printf commands which are used in the Linux. Okay. First is printf with L, printf with LP, printf with 3, printf with 3P, like this. So if I use -K, what is my system going to tell me? It will display all the types of printf commands or the information of all the type of printfs that is there in the system. So it is giving me information about the printf which is used with L, printf which is used with LP, printf which is used with 3, printf which is used with 3P. So if I want to know many options of a single command, I can do that by making use of -K. Okay, so if there are 10 types of printf options or printf commands in my system, it will list all the 10 printfs if I make use of this -K. Okay, so what it is giving, again, it will give the short information, but whichever matches with the keyword printf. Okay, so that K stands for keyword. And what is that keyword I am searching for? It is searching the keyword as printf. Now, if I type man-K cron tab, so what it will give me? All the words that are matching with cron tab, it will give me the details of all commands. That is only cron tab with -I, cron tab with -R, cron tab with -I-R. Everything will be given which is matching with the word cron tab. Okay, so K is for matching with the keyword, whatever I write over here. Printf is giving the information about that command in very short, that is just one line. And if I do not use any of this option, only man with a command name, it will give me a detailed information. Okay. Then next I have an option called as -W, small w. Sorry, -small w. Now what is that small w used for? It is used to tell you the location of a particular file inside the system, or it will tell you the contents of that particular file. So if you see, I have written man-W printf. So what is it telling me? That where is this printf command inside your system? So where is that printf command inside your system? It is inside man1, which is there inside man, which is there inside share, which is there inside a user directory. So if at all I want to find the location of any particular file, how do I find the location? By making use of this -w command, which will tell me the location of that particular command inside the system. So again, if I want to know the location of the cron tab command, what will I write is man-w cron tab. So what it will display me, the location where my cron tab command is stored inside the system. Okay. Then next we have is capital K option. We had small k, which will search by the keyword. And then we have capital K, which means what? It will search for text inside the manual page. So when I type man-k printf, what output it is giving me? It will display all man entries containing a printf keyword. And after each entry is displayed, you can press enter to view the second entry. Now, what is the difference in both? In hyphen small k, I get to see the list as it is. I do not have to press enter or I do not have to scroll anything. Whereas in capital K, it will display me only first matching keyword with respect to printf. Then when I press enter, it will show me the second entry. Again, when I press enter, it will show me the third entry. Whereas what was happening in -k, I do not have to, -k, I do not have to press enter to view the second entry. It is showing me all the entries together. So always it is preferable between hyphen small k and hyphen k, capital K, to make use of hyphen small k. Why? Because I do not have to every now and then keep on pressing enter to check all the printf details. In one shot, it will give me all the words that are matching with the printf keyword. Okay. So these are the different options which we can use along with the man page. And why this man page is used? It is called as manual page, which is used to know the description about any type of command which is used inside the Linux system. Let it be a user command or a system call command or a device related command or any library related command, any game related command. All the information can be searched with the help of a man page. If you want to categorize your search, you can always make use of options. -f for small description, -small k to match with the keywords, capital K, again same to match with the keywords, but always keep on pressing enter to know the next entry. And if at all I want to find the location that where that particular command is stored in the inside the system, I make use of an option called as -w. Is this clear up till here? Om? So now next topic is info page. So whatever we did was about the man page, manual page. Next is the info page. It is called as information page. Now info page are more detailed than the man page. Now what is man page? We just saw it was giving a description in these many lines, say suppose 10 to 15 lines. But what will info page give me? Info page will give me a detailed information which will be more than one page. So if at all I want to find about printf into detail, or if I want to know each and every in and out of printf, I will not make use of man page, but I will make use of info page. Okay. Why I will make use of info page? Because it is giving me complete description or complete information about that command. Whereas man page is also giving me complete, but it is just for a purpose of using. That's it. But if I want to know everything in detail, I will make use of info page. Clear? So if you see, info page are more detailed than the man page. They are divided into different nodes, pages that can be read with an info reader, which will work much like a web browser. So now every one of us know what is a web browser. It contains different types of web pages. Now what is that web page having? It continuously has information which goes from one page to another page and then from another page to third page and so on. And then we can always come to the previous page, go to the next page and keep on doing that. So same thing is happening in the info page also. We have multiple pages. We can go forward to those pages and we can also go backward to the pages. So if I want to go to the next page, I will press N. If I want to go to the previous page, I will make use of P. And if I want to quit, I will simply press Q. Okay, how is the syntax? Info used with the option. Now, what is the first option? Hyphen A. Okay. What is this hyphen A? It use all matching manuals and displays them for a particular command. Now, what is my command? CVS. What is that CVS? It is some kind of file. So now whatever files which are there in my system, which has an extension called as CVS or which has a name called as CVS, it will find all those files and give it to the user. How it will give me if I type this info in front of it by using this hyphen A. So when I type info hyphen A CVS, what output I will get? C. File names matching with CVS. So what it is giving me, there is a first file inside a user directory, inside share, inside info, cvs.info, there's a name of a file. So it is retrieving that file which is matching with the keyword CVS. So if you compare the man page and info page, to find with the keyword in man, I make use of hyphen K, whereas to find with a keyword in info, I make use of hyphen A. Okay. Then there's a one more file called as CVS. What is that CVS? A detailed information about the CVS is also found in the man page. Now, what does this mean? Whatever information is there in the info page, you will find the same information in the man page also, but it will be in short form. Okay, so if there are 1,000 entries in the info page, all those 1,000 entries will be there in the man page also. So whenever I use this command info CVS, it will always give me the file which is there inside the man page also. Why? Because every data of info page is made as a copy inside the man page also. Now, if I replace this CVS with cron tab, what will happen? I will get to find over here all the files which has name cron tab along with the entry of man page with CSV replaced here with cron tab, which means what? You have a cron tab information in man page also. Again, if I replace this CVS with printf, I will always find one entry with man page printf. Why? Because you have the entry of that printf inside the man page also. Okay. So this is how you can search inside the info page with respect to any command or any file by using a keyword search with an option hyphen A. So here I am using the info command to find a file which is with the name called as CVS. Okay. Then next is again hyphen W command. Now, why was hyphen W used in man page? To find the location. So same W command is used to find the location in your info page also. So if I say info hyphen W CVS, what it will tell me? The location of the CVS file. Where is that location? The CVS file, that is cvs.info.gz. This is the name of a file. Where is that file found? Inside the info folder, inside the share folder, inside the directory user. Okay. So the work of hyphen W remains same even if it is man or even if it is info, which is used to tell the physical location of the particular file or a command that you type over here. So again, if I replace this with printf, what it will give me? The location where that printf is saved inside the system. Then next, if I want to find a short description of an info page, that means if I want to know what is the purpose of that info page inside the system, in short, what will I do is I will make a use of man info. So when I say man info and when I press enter, what will I get to see? A short description about the information page. Clear? I can also make use of same command by using info hyphen hyphen help. So to check the help page of info command, I can make use of info hyphen hyphen help. So what will I get to see is that what is that info page containing? It is containing the information that you can see here. This is what everything in one line. But if I want to know the detail, I have to select any one particular command and type it in front of info. So it will give me a detailed information. But if I want to just see one line statement or one line information, I can use this help page by using a command info hyphen hyphen help. Again, where are these commands typed? They are typed onto your terminal or onto your shell. Is this clear up till here? What is man page and info page? Any doubts so far? Any one of you? Jenny?
Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay. Anybody else? Any doubts up till here?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so
No, ma'am.
we have seen two commands, man page and info page. What is man page? A manual description or a manual documentation which is giving me information, not exactly in detail, but in short, again with different kinds of option. That is -f, small k, capital K, and -w. Then we had seen info command, which is used to give a very detailed information in number of pages for any particular command. Again, that command is used with different options. To search with a keyword, we make use of -a. To know the location of that command, we make use of -w. To know about the information page in short, we make use of man info. And to know one line description of the commands, we can use info with -help. Okay, that is what we have seen. Now, next topic is command line. Now, we had seen this command line in short in the previous lecture. Now, we know that Linux is a two type of operating system. It is GUI based as well as it is command line. Command line means what? We can type such types of command in a command prompt and execute the work. Or if we do not know this, we can use the GUI option, and then we can travel, or we can use those icons and buttons and get the work done. So when I say command line means what? I am using those commands, typing those commands in the terminal and getting the work done by the system. So a command line or a terminal is a text-based interface. Why it is text-based interface? Because it is a user who is typing those commands in a form of text. Okay. You are able to enter the commands by typing them on the keyboard, and feedback will be given to you similarly as a text. So if you see this, this is a command man-k printf, where I have written this command. A user has typed this command on the terminal, and when I press a output, when I press enter, system has given me an output again, which is in the form of a text. Okay. So this is how you operate if it is command line. You type a text, you press enter, and you get the output. These command line typically presents you in a prompt. Now, what is that prompt? If it is Linux, we have a bash prompt. Okay, that is a $1 for user. And if it is a root user, it is hash. So that prompt is nothing but the shell, either a bash shell or it is a root user shell. Now see, what is a terminal or a shell? Within a terminal, you have a shell. What is a terminal? It is a window where you are allowed to type the commands. That is the terminal. And the prompt you get to see is nothing but the shell. This is a part of an operating system that defines how the terminal will behave and look after running a command that a user has entered. There are various shells available, but the most common one is the bash shell, okay, which stands for born again shell. Now, I had told you Unix operating system makes use of born shell and Linux makes use of bash shell. Okay, so what is that bash called? It is called as born again. Why it is called as born again? Because it was used from the Unix version. मतलब पहले Unix ने बनाया, उसके बाद Linux ने उसको use किया. Therefore, we have called it as born again. Clear? If you would like to know which shell you are using, you may use a command called as echo. Now, if you are using a system for a first time and if you get to see that $, and if you do not know that what that $, stands for, so you can always make use of a command called as echo. When you type echo and when you press enter, the system will give you an output as born again if you are a normal user. But if you are a admin and logged in as a root, and then if you type echo and if you press enter, it will tell you super user. What is that super user? That means you have logged in as a root user and the shell or a prompt for you will be hash. Okay, I will show you that how it looks like. Okay, so if you want to know what type of shell you are using, you can always know that by typing this echo command inside your terminal. Now next is GUI. What does GUI stand for? Graphical User Interface. So either you make use of these commands, or if you do not know the commands, you can use GUI part of the Linux. Okay. Now, like command line operating system, which were Unix and MS-DOS operating system. That means which were the command line operating system, the Unix and MS-DOS were command line. They did not had any GUI. Whereas your Windows, Linux, all these are GUI. They are GUI as well as they are command line. Okay. Unlike a command line operating system like Unix or MS-DOS GUI operating system, they are much easier to learn and use because commands do not need to be memorized. Additionally, user do not need to know any programming languages. Because of their ease to use, GUI operating system have become dominant operating system used by today's end user. Now, why have we switched from this command line to GUI? Because in command line, we have to remember those commands to use. Whereas in GUI, we do not have to remember any commands. We simply have to click somewhere or press the buttons or click on the menu, select something and get our work completed. So therefore, all the systems are now shifting from command line to GUI based. Why? Because they are easy to operate and there is nothing to learn for the operation. Okay, now we have many examples of GUI operating system. Windows is example, your Mac operating system, Chrome OS, Unix versions like Ubuntu. All these are what? GUI based operating system. GUI based means this doesn't mean that they do not support command prompt. They support command also and they support GUI also. Okay. Now, what are the examples of the GUI interface for Linux? Okay. GNOME is one of the example. KDE is one of the example. So now inside GUI also, there are many versions of the interface. Now, what is version of an interface? It is nothing but the placement of the components or the placements of icons and buttons. If you see Linux and Windows, in Linux, you will find shutdown, date and time on the top right hand side. Whereas in Windows, you will find it in the bottom right hand side. So that is how the interface is different. So in Linux also, you have different interfaces like GNOME and KDE. So why they are different? It is nothing but placement of the components, placement of the icons and placement of these timings, dates, Wi-Fi connection, network connection, all these will be different. Therefore, we call them as different examples of GUI interface. You can install or you can select any of them during the time of installation. That means whenever you install Linux, a page will come which will ask you which type of interface do you want, whether you want GNOME or you want KDE. So whichever you select, that particular interface will be installed in the system. Again, the image will also be shown to you that how does GNOME look like and how does KDE look like. Then you can select whichever is appropriate to you and then you can use that. The next is a root user. Now, what is that root user? It is nothing but the admin of your system. Okay. So root is a user name or an account that is by default has access to each and everything inside the Linux. So if at all a person who is root of the system can access to any file, any documents, can delete whatever user that person can delete whatever he wants and can also change the permission of other user. That means he can do everything whatever he wishes inside the system. So that root is also called as root account or a root user, or it is called as super user. So all the three means nothing but the administrator of the system. So root privileges are the power that a root account has on the system. Now, what are those root privileges? He can read, write, change, edit, delete, everything he can do. That is what is called as root privileges. Among root's power are the ability to modify the system. That means what? That person, whomsoever is a root, can modify the system. That means he can change any settings of the system in any way he wants. How can he do that? By making use of grant and revoke. We had seen this in DBMS. Grant means I am giving some permission, being a user, to some another being a root user to some another normal user. And once if that normal user has completed the work, I will take back the privileges. So taking back the privileges is called as revoking the privilege. So grant is you root user is giving, revoke is you root user is taking it back. Now I can do this grant and revoke with respect to what? With respect to any files and directories inside the system. Okay. For whom it can be done for other users, including any of those that are by default reserved for roots. That means I can also make certain users identified as a root. Identify as a root means along with me, I can select more 2 or 3 users to whom I can make completely a root user. That means whatever I have rights, all rights they will also have. So they are considered to be as reserved for roots. Okay. So I can have one main root user, which is me. I can select 2 or more root users, which are called as reserved. So whatever rights I have, those reserved root user will also have. And I will have third category, which will be just a normal users. Okay. Then next, logging in as a root. We can log in as a normal user. We can log in as a root user. But if at all you want to log in as a root user, you should know the password of that root. When do you set this? Again, it is set at a time of installation. Okay. So the root account is similar to any other account that has a username as a root. So what will be the username? It will be root. But along with that username, it will also have some password. So if you know the password, you will be able to log in. But if you do not know the password, you have to log in as a normal user. There is a special command name called as SU. What does that SU stands for? Super user or switch user, which allows you to temporarily run the command as a root account. Okay, which means what am I doing is I am transferring all my rights to some another normal user by making use of this SU. So when I do this, what will happen? That normal user can run the commands on temporary basis as a root user. So for example, if I have made Prathamesh, or if I have given a Prathamesh a right to use this SU command, what a Prathamesh can do is he can enter SU, that means type SU and press enter. What will happen? Now Prathamesh will be converted into a root user, but for how much? For temporary purpose. Once that temporary purpose has been completed, I will take back that command SU from Prathamesh, which means what? I had given Prathamesh rights to use the system as a root, but for temporary purpose. Once that temporary purpose has been completed, I will take back the rights again. So a normal user can be converted into a root user by making use of this SU command. But before using this SU command, the administrator of the system has to give the rights of using this command to that normal user. Unless and until this right is not given, none of you as a normal user can execute this command. Clear? So to use this, what I have to type is I have to type SU command. Once I type this, it will ask you for the password. So I have shared my password with Prathamesh. Prathamesh will type the password, and now Prathamesh will behave as a administrator of a system along with me. He will do his work. Once the work is being completed, he will exit from the super user and again become a normal user. So to use this SU command, you should know the password for it. If the password is not known, you cannot use this command, being a normal user. Okay. So see, in the command prompt, before typing SU, I had dollar. What does this dollar means? That I am a normal user and I am typing SU. When I press, it is asking me for the password. Now, since password was told to this normal user, it will type the password and then he will get to log in inside the system as a root. So who is typing this SU? Prathamesh is typing. I have shared a password with Prathamesh. Prathamesh has typed that password. The password was verified and now Prathamesh is converted from a normal user to a root user. So normal user has this Bourne shell and a root user has this hash shell. Okay, that is called as root shell or a super user shell. Is this clear up till here, all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So if you know the
Yes, ma'am.
password, then only you are converted into root. If you do not know the password, you will be acting as a normal user only. Clear? Then next is graphical login. Now what is graphical login? That is nothing but login inside the GUI interface. So to do that, what you have to do is you have to install any one of the GUI interface. That was either Genome interface or the KDE interface. Now after it is being what I had told you, that you have to install this at a time of installation. But if you forget to do that at the time of installation, you can always change it after the Linux is installed. How you can change it? By using that command line system. That is, you can type the command in the command prompt and change the interface to Genome. So how you will, what command you are supposed to type? You are supposed to type this command, sorry, set default graphical dot target. So what it will do when you type this command, it will by default set the Genome GUI interface inside your system. So when you press enter, it will ask your system to reboot. After your system is rebooted, you will find an interface of your Genome. Okay, so this command is for your Genome. So if you have forgot during the installation, you can always do it after it is installed by using the respective commands. If at all you do not know this command, you can always refer to man page or info page and use the command from there to set up the GUI interface after the Linux is installed inside the system. Now next is virtual console. What do you mean by virtual console? Now every one of us knows what is TeamViewer and what is AnyDesk. What is that? If I'm not able to do something from my system, I can always take access, or I can give my access of my computer to somebody else, and then that somebody else can perform the operation on my computer. And same can be done from my end also. So what is happening over here? Have you heard about the mainframe computers which were used in very olden days? This was your mainframe computer. What was the function of the mainframe computers? It was doing only the work of processing. That means I have a system at my home, but what can I do with that system? I can only give input and I can only observe the output. No processing work was done in my system. Like how you have your system now, you give input, it will execute on its own and it will give you the output. You don't have to execute on somebody else's computer. It will be done everything in the computer which is there in front of you right now. But if it was a mainframe computer, what was happening? This terminal part was at the user end and this mainframe part was at somewhere else. So what I was doing, I was giving input through my system. That input was transmitted through a network to this mainframe computer. Then here I had a processor. The processor was processing the information and it was sending me the output through the network, and I was only able to see the output. So this was happening when it is a mainframe computer. So what I was doing, I was sending input and I was getting the output. But this system was not able to process the output on its own. Same thing can be done in your Linux also. Suppose if you have a system in which you have a Linux operating system installed, but if something some kind of processing which you cannot do on your system, you can always get it done by some another system. That some another system is called as virtual console. Okay. Now what is happening is, see, if you see the above diagram, I have a Linux system. That means this is a computer where my Linux is installed. I have one serial port to which a serial cable is connected. Okay, where is that serial cable connected? It is connected to some another computer. And how is this connection done? It is done with the help of a network. Okay, between these two computers, I have network also. And both the computers are connected with a network as well as with a serial cable. Okay, so the data can be transmitted through a cable also from this machine to this machine, as well as it can be transmitted through network also. Choice depends upon the user. Okay, so now I have a serial port here. I have a serial port here. To both these serial ports, serial cable is connected. Okay, again using this system, I am sending the input over here. That input is processed by this machine, which is called as physical console. After the input has been processed, through the same cable, I am sending the output also and then the output is displayed on this system. But to make this thing happen, I have installed some kind of software. Now, I just said you the example of software like AnyDesk and TeamViewer. If you do not have this two software, can you do that sharing? No. So you also have to install some kind of software. So that software is installed on the system, which is enabling to transmit the input, complete the processing, and to receive the output and to observe that output. So this system is considered to be as a virtual system or a virtual console, and this system is considered to be as physical console. Now, why virtual and why physical? Physical is what, or why it is called as physical? Because all the processing and execution is done on the physical. So the machine where your execution and processing is done is considered to be as physical. But the machine which is used only for sending the output and receiving the, sending the input and receiving the output is considered to be as virtual. Okay. So since I have used this Linux only to send and receive input and output, therefore I am calling it as a virtual console. And since the processing is done on some another machine, I am calling that machine as a physical console. So again, if I apply this concept on this diagram, the terminal will become a virtual console and my mainframe will become a physical console. This is what is the concept of a virtual console. That means a machine which is used only to send and receive is considered to be as virtual, but the machine which is used to perform all the processing and execution work is considered to be as physical. But again, both the machines are connected either with the help of a network or with the help of some cable. But which cable? A serial cable. Is this clear? Everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that was virtual console. Now next is shell prompt. Again, command line, terminal, shell prompt, everything is same. It is a place where we type commands, a text-based command, and then those commands will be accepted by the user. It will be processed and the output will be given again in a form of a text back to the user. So what kind of shell do we have? We know we have a shell for a user, which is called as bash shell, which looks like dollar. Then we have older computers were using or had another type of shell which looks like percentage. Then we have one more shell called as C shell. Symbol for it is this arrow. And then we have a root shell which has hash. Okay, so the one which is supported in the Linux is that is dollar, and the root shell which is the hash. Okay, so these are the different types of shells, but the commonly used ones in the Linux are dollar for the normal user, that is the bash shell, and the hash for super user or for the root user. Okay. Then we had also seen editing of the commands. What is editing the commands? That is, once if the commands are written in any of the editor, we can always edit that. Now what is the editor? In Windows, we have Notepad as an editor where I can type, I can erase, and I can retype, I can modify also. Similarly, in Linux, we have an editor called as VI. I had told you this if you remember, a VI editor. What do? Is we open that VI editor, we type the commands, we save, and we execute them. So once it is written, it does not mean that we cannot change. We can always edit them. Okay. So to edit that, we have to open, erase the command, type, and save. How do we save is, if you remember, we press :WQ. So if I press :WQ, which means what? It will save and it will quit that VI editor. Okay, so when I open that VI editor, what is happening? I can move up and down, right and left. All the things can be done by using arrow keys or by using the home and the end keys from the keyboard. Okay, so if you see, the left and right arrow allows the user to move the cursor to edit the command. So if I want to edit any command, I will first open the VI editor. I will click on that particular command. Once I have clicked, I can use, if I want to go right, I will make use of right arrow. If I want to go to the left of the command, I will press left arrow. After this is done, I will press :WQ, save and quit. Okay, so I can move right and left by using the right and left arrows of your keyboard. Then you can also make use of home and end keys to go to the beginning and end of the file. Okay, so home is used to go to the beginning of a file. That means if I have a very long page of or too many commands I have, and if I do not want to scroll it, or if I do not want to use up arrow key, I can simply press home. So when I press home, it will go to the top of the, or it will go to the first line of the command. And if I want to go to the end of the command, I will simply press the end key. End of the command means last line of the VI editor. So if you want to go to the first line, press home. If you want to go to the last line, press end. If you want to move 2-3 lines ahead, press up arrow. 2-3 lines below, press down arrow. If you want to go right, press right arrow. If you want to go left, press left arrow. So how, if it is similar to your notepad. In notepad also, if you press home, end, right, left, it will do all the same work which is done in your VI editor. What all commands you can type or edit? You can type all these types of commands which are available inside the Linux. So cat is used for copying. CD is used for change the drive. ls is used for listing. chmod is used to change the mode from normal, changing the mode of your files. This we'll see in detail later. mv is used to move. Find is used to search something. mkdir is to make a new file or a folder inside the system. So all these commands, not only these, but all the commands which are there in the Linux, you can write all those commands and you can edit all the commands by using the same functions, up arrow, down arrow, and so on. Okay. Now we have seen different types of shell. In Unix, it is Bourne shell, which is again $, but in Linux, we have changed the name from Bourne to Bourne again, or bash. Then in Unix, we also have a C-type shell, which is been identified by this arrow key. But in Linux, as I said, we use only $, and for root, we make use of hash. Then we have seen file system hierarchy standard. We have seen different directories like bin, boot, device directory, etc, home, library, media, removable medias, MNT, mount file system, OPT, SBIN, system binaries, server related files, temporary files, user related file, and PROC. Now what is this PROC? If I'm not wrong, media is new to you, mount is new to you. Now what do you mean by mount? Whenever I attach any device, the device is mounted. And whenever I remove that device, it is called as unmounted. Now the same thing is happening in your mobile phones also. When you insert the SD card, it shows SD card mounted. That means the card is inserted and you can use. And when you remove it, it shows the message unmount SD card, which means a SD card is removed and you can no longer use the SD card. So same concept is used for the devices in the Linux also. If you attach the device, and if the device is attached properly, it will show you that it is mounted with the help of this MNT. Okay. And if you remove it, it will show you with a message called as unmount. Okay. That is what is mount and unmount. Then you have something called as SBIN. What is this SBIN? System binaries. Now this normal bin is for your users, normal user commands. But system related commands which are not used by the user, where are those commands saved? They are saved in this SBIN. That is a system binary. Then server related information. If your server is attached to your system, and if you want to know the data of that server, or if you're taking that data of the server, it will go into which directory? /srv directory. Last is PROC. What is that PROC? Process related information. That means any process or any program which is executing inside the system. What is the ID of that process? What time that process got created? At what time the process was ended? All those details will be found inside this directory called as PROC directory. Okay. So you can either write in the exam all these directories or only the one which I have shared in the previous lecture. Anything will do. If you even write about mount, system, and PROC, it is okay. If you do not mention this 3, that is also okay. But the one which I have taught you in the previous lecture, all of them should be there. Okay, because those are very necessary. These can be considered as optional one. Okay, so that is nothing but the file system hierarchy standard of your Linux operating system. So this is the explanation of the previous diagram. Then we have different types of files inside the Linux. What are those? We have general files, we have directory files, and we have device files. What are general files? They are called as ordinary file. What do they contain? They contain images, videos, and simply text. They can be ASCII or binary format, most commonly used by the Linux user, which means what? If at all I have any images, any videos, or any simply text like VI editor files, I call those files as a general files. How are those files stored inside the system? They will be stored either in the binary format or in the ASCII format. But when it is retrieved to the user, it will be in the normal text human readable format. But for the system use, it is always either in the binary or in the ASCII format. Then we have directory files. What are directory files? These are all considered to be as a directory files. Okay. So either I have text files, or I will have these kind of directory files, or I will have a separate file called as devices. That means if I remove this DEV directory, or I can call this DEV directory as a separate file where I am only storing the information related to devices attached to my system. That is CD-ROM or any kind of SATA or PATA hard disk which are connected to your system, or if it is like a printer connected to your system or pen drive connected to your system. So whatever files are there inside those devices, I consider them as a device file. Where is the entry of that file? Inside the dev directory. So as I said, if you remove this dev directory, it will be considered as a device files, or the files inside these directories are considered to be as a device files. Rest all other are considered to be as a directory files. And all those VI editor kinds of text files and images files are considered to be as a general files or ordinary files. Okay. Then we have different types of users if it is Windows and Linux. Your Linux has only two users. One is regular with a dollar prompt, and one is root user with a hash prompt. But if it is Windows, we have three types. One is the administrator, one is the normal user, and third we give a login as a guest, which is just for the temporary purpose. Okay. But in Linux, we do not have this guest. We have regular user and we have a administrator user. Now there is one very interesting thing in Linux which Windows do not have. That is, what is the file name convention. Now if you see, this side is a Linux and this side is your Windows. Okay, in Windows you get to see your folders like this, whereas in Linux you get to see files and folders like this. Now if you see, if I have a file called as report, and if I try to make one more file called as report, what message does my Windows show me? Do you want to rename this new text file to report 2? Why report 2? Because it is having a same name. Yes or no? But this thing is allowed if it is your Linux operating system. Now what I have to do here is, either I can have one file with a name as report and a second file with a name as report 2. I cannot have both the files with a name report if it is Windows. But if you see in Linux, I can have a file with sample, I can have a file with sample, again a file with a sample, and again a file with a sample. If you observe all the four files, there is only a change in the letters. Everything is small over here. S is small, rest is capital. Everything is capital, S is capital, rest is small. So what does this mean is, it is allowing me to save the file with the same name if it is Linux. But if it is Windows, it will never allow me to save a file with the same name. It will always append these numbers in front of the file. Whereas I will not have such kind of numbers if it is a Linux file system. So this is the advantage. You can have a file with the same name, but only you have to change the case of the letters, either uppercase or lowercase. Whereas that is not allowed if it is a Windows operating system. Okay, so that is the advantage of your Linux. Now, in Windows operating system, all your system and program files, where are they saved? In the C drive. What are system files? Operating system, all your softwares for your application, where are they by default getting saved? Inside the C drive. But if it is Linux, you will find all those things either in the boot directory if it is related to operating system, and if it is related to software, it will be found inside the bin file. And if it is related to devices, it will be found in the /dev directory, which means what? If it is Windows, everything is in one drive, C drive. But if it is Linux, I have divided into three different things. Everything with respect to operating system will go inside boot. Everything with related to software, application and users will go into bin. Everything related to devices will go inside DEV. Okay, so your C drive of Windows is divided into three directories of your Linux. Then this is a difference between your Windows and Linux. We have naming conventions like C, D, E and all. Here we do not follow such naming conventions. The names are already decided in a hierarchical format. Here we have drives. Here we do not have drives. Why? Because in Linux, everything is in form of files. Why? Because a Linux is a file operating system. We do not have directories or folders. Everything is considered to be as a file. We have three users, that is admin, standard and guest, whereas we have only two users, that is normal and the root. Here administrator has all rights. Here root user has all the rights. Okay. In Windows, we cannot have two files with the same name inside a folder, whereas in Linux, we can have that, as we have just seen over here, sample, and here in case of report. So this is what is difference between Linux and Windows also. There are many more difference, but these are the few ones. If you know any other, you can always write. Okay, so with this, we have completed with 1.4 of your first chapter. Any doubt so far? Any one of you? No? Okay, so now I will be sharing a quiz link to you on the classroom. I will also put it in the chat box over here. So once I have pasted over here, you can open that link and start giving the quiz. Okay. I have pasted the link in the classroom. Please go there. Before that, please turn on your videos. Every one of you, please turn on your video. Put your videos on. If I do not see any one of you, that means there is something fishy you're doing there. Yes. You do not have to leave the meeting. Atharva, stop your presentation. Okay. So I will paste the link in the chat box also. Please click on the link and start. Sanskar, stop presenting. Harsh, why is your video off? Yes, I can see you now. Once I tell your name, that means I have received your response. Nikunj, why is your video off?
Ma'am, it is on.
Ah, yes, I can see you now.